The Hawai'i Sports Radio Network on 95.1 FM and AM 760 presents Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani.
Good morning, beautiful people. Let's wake up in the den. I'm Ku'ule Agbayani alongside Paul Brecht. Happy Thursday. It's going to be a fun show, or as I did post yesterday, it might get a little crazy in here. Why? Because we have Captain Fun in the house joining us in studio, a.k.a. Eric Mathews, the University of Hawaii at Manoa Athletics Director of Marketing and Fan Experience. What's up, Eric Mathews?
Ahoy, my friends. How's everybody doing this morning?
Woo! We are fired up and excited to have you. So thank you for taking a little work day in your summer to come and join us this morning.
Work day. Every day's a work day. We're getting ready for everything else and planning and doing all this different stuff. So, I mean, this is nothing out of the ordinary. The only difference is I'm actually leaving the island today.
Oh.
Today, I start vacation.
Oh, so especially
right
thank you.
time.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you for joining us.
I'll be in here. I'll go to the office for a little while, and then I'm flying to St. Louis, and I'm going to watch the Reds and Cardinals at Busch Stadium.
Oh, that'll be so nice.
Yes, and then I will go on and see my pops in Kentucky for a little while, and then I'm going to go watch about 7-8 Reds games with a few friends, and then I'm coming right back.
I love it. I love it so much. I go on vacation next week, and then Paul over here goes on vacation at the end of July. So we're all just rocking and rolling and
Taking
getting geared up
turns.
for, obviously, the sports season when all of us in this studio basically are married to work after that. And that's living and working 10, 15, 20-hour days at a time, sometimes depending on what especially for you with multiple sports that are going on pretty soon. But first, let's get into it, and then we'll have some fun, obviously, along the show. If you guys want to text in, we have one question, actually more of a comment, and it's a good one. I'll save it for later. But if you guys have a question for Eric, you guys can text us anytime during the show at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481. All right, though. You've been here for a few years now, and we had you on last year, I guess you can say, to when you first got this new position that you are in, and recap, got to know a little bit about you and where you're from. But now I think this is a fun opportunity for us a year later, pretty much, being on the head of the marketing and fan experience. So just talk to us a little bit about your first time at the helm and some of the significant projects that you were able to accomplish during, your first time or first season through doing this.
Cool, that's a loaded question.
I know it's a lot, but thankfully you're here for the whole hour, so we can talk about it all.
This may take the entire hour. But the first year was, I think, a resounding success in a lot of different ways. And I say that, and we also just won a national award. We found that out about 2 weeks ago, which that was cool to see. But the thing is that I really hang my head on was we tried things. We mixed it up. And we went down a path to try and do more and try to get fans more involved. And I think this year we just scratched the surface.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to sit here and tell you like we did everything we wanted to do. It was perfect. It was far from that. But for a staff in our marketing department, which I'll give a little bit of insight and breakdown, roughly that falls under the marketing flag and under myself, we have roughly about 35 people. And of those 35 people, 5 of them work full-time in the office. Everyone else is either game day operations or a student worker or intern. And the staff that we had, we lost a lot of experience when I came in. And I think we tallied up, I think it was like around like 70 some odd years of experience combined that we lost the months leading up to me coming in and then me coming in. So to have that hurdle and then to kind of go out there and do what we did. And I actually said this in a group meeting that we had back in April. Everybody talks about in the show business about how Saturday Night Live, it's so tough. Like, you're always writing, you're always doing stuff, you're live. We're putting on some form of a Saturday Night Live 160 times a year. And there is a comparison, but there isn't a comparison. But the comparison that is we're constantly doing live performance. We're constantly trying to set things up and to try different things. And there were some that were really successful. Everybody loves Mystery Box at basketball. So that
and the upgraded Mystery Box.
Yes, the upgraded Mystery Box. Hey, you got to have a starting point, and that was our starting point. Thank God for Lois Mannon, who saw that. It was like, I'm going to make you one. Like, go right ahead. You're more than welcome. But Mystery Box and a lot of other different stuff that we did, and we already have a lot of things that we're planning on doing this year. We actually took a different approach going to this offseason where, for football, just starting off, rather than it just be myself and the staff coming up with ideas, we have a committee that we've put together that with people that are outside of UH to get different opinions and to try and think things differently. Because when you're in the business and when you're in at the school all the time, you kind of have this perception and this thought process of, okay, what can we do? What have we done before? Can we repeat it? What can we do to add a little bit to it? When you get an outside perspective, you're like going, oh, why did I think of that? And so like we're trying to go down that road a lot more. And so over the past year of trying to structurally fix things and then trying to execute things and trying to get on the same page with sponsors, trying to get fans more involved, trying to get their opinions on stuff with our surveys, you add all this stuff into it and you look at the success of our sports. I feel like this past year was a very successful one. But again, I cannot stress this enough. It was a starting point.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first go-around. We're only scratching the surface here. The stuff that we want to keep doing and the direction we want to head is really going to change the game, I think.
Ooh, I love it.
Those lines always go hard. It's been a fun year to see the stuff that you guys have come up with. And, oh, man, I'm so excited for the next year. That's the biggest thing, right? Where you're kind of talking about it. There's a starting point for everyone, and I would argue that our starting point, our being the fans of Hawaii, it was a pretty good one. It was a nice level to go from. What, you disagree, Ko?
Oh no, especially women's basketball. That was like a very
yeah. They had a pretty good MC.
Let's talk about that. I know you have your questions, but we're going to go down that road for a second. But that door has opened. I'm kicking it down. So I want to bring this up. So that was one thing that I really wanted to adjust and change was, yes, our game presentation, but how that presentation is brought forth and who is at the forefront of that. Adding you on as a hype person at women's basketball, to me, was a game changer.
Oh, thanks.
It made a big difference because what it ended up happening too, we did the same at men's basketball. We brought in Sienna, and she was part of it, Billy V. And when you bring in that new blood, that new talent, it adds something different to the presentation. And by no means am I tooting my own horn here, but there was a weekend I forgot Billy V took off. And
but that's right.
Billy V was on top of it. He told me a month in advance, and well, I forgot. And I was like, okay, well, I used to do this, so you know what? We're coming out of retirement for a night or a few. And that's what happened. And so, and I was told from multiple people, like, hey, mixing it up was great to see. And it gave a different feel of what the game was. And so when you have the mixture of Billy V and a little bit of Sienna, you have the mixture of Terry V and you have me kind of popping in there, here and there. You have all this different stuff, because what I did not want to have happen, I'm starting to get fired up now. I'm glad.
Woo!
It's 8:14, and I am ready to go. But
that's how it's supposed to be.
Yes.
We're waking up in the den.
Yes. And so, but what you end up seeing, and what I didn't want to do, is I did not want every game to be the same.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain aspects I can't change when it comes to sponsorship and a few other things. But when you can, you should. And I don't think there was a person that went to a basketball game this year or a football game this year or a volleyball game this year was like, I went to a volleyball game in September. It was the same in November. You couldn't say that this past year. You couldn't say that about basketball, where I went to a game in November and I went to another one in February. It was the same thing. No. But before I walked in the door, I felt like that was something I kept hearing was, it's the same now as it was 20 years ago. And I did not like that. That needed to change.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a lot of things to try and change that. Now, there are critics, all for it. I see them. I get enough hate tweets as it is. And it makes my day most times.
We get it too. We see it all the time on social media, as it does with the sports side of things.
And that happens, but that's cool. And I don't like, I'll see it. There are some that they're just mad. And they're just going to say something that they would never say to you in person, and that's fine. Get it off your chest. Absolutely. If I'm part of your mental health, go right ahead.
Yep.
But at the same time, there are some that actually come up with something, and I'm like, they make a very valid point. That's something we could try. And there's different stuff, and then we throw ideas out there like Taylor Swift night that you clap. Do you understand how much
you did miss it, Koo?
Do you understand how much hate I got from that?
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, I saw it.
Oh, bro.
Oh, I can't imagine how much it was, because I only saw like a little portion of it too, where it's like, oh, I'm like, I wonder if Eric saw this, you know? And it's like, oh, I'm sure Eric saw this and probably 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 15 other
correct
posts.
And here's the thing. I want to talk about that just for a quick second. Is we did Taylor Swift night during men's basketball season. That was the weekend I forgot that Billy V wasn't there. So I ended up being the one that was doing it, which I'm going to have fun. And so we did. But leading up to that, I got so many tweets, emails, threats, all this stuff about Taylor Swift night. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, going, one, why is this striking a chord? And two, I'm like, well, I'm going to do it even more because there was an idea for one of our staff members. Let's try this. Let's do something different. And when you do the research into it, you go, okay, maybe this will do something. Here's what this did. Aside from the hate, what we ended up finding out was we had an increase in ticket sales for women at a men's basketball game 16 to 35 by 68%. Then we had an increase in ticket sales for kids at men's basketball games this year, which had its highest attendance in kids at the Taylor Swift night, when that was an increase of 32% compared to other games. What does that tell you? That tells you
you're doing your job.
That we're yes, thank you, Paul. But it also tells you we're hitting demographics ordinarily not hit to make them fans for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's the whole thing, is trying to bring more people in here. And if those type of ideas brings more people in here, we're going to keep doing them. So I understand why people are like, well, it's men's basketball. Why do a Taylor Swift night? Do that for women's basketball or do it for this or that. No, look at the numbers, my man. This will tell you the road we're going down here is appealing to a demographic that we weren't getting before and that we need to keep growing. Let's keep doing it.
Yeah, and like we said, you're just scratching the surface, and we're just scratching the surface of this show. We do need to take a break as we are joined in studio by the University of Hawaii Director of Marketing and Fan Experience, Eric Mathews. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Top floor, that's who in the zoo. Strut move like whoop down the avenue. Hey, I just want the finer things. I've been looking my whole life trying to find the things.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ule Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and we are joined in studio by University of Hawaii Director of Marketing and Fan Experience, Eric Mathews. All right, still in our mode of recapping this past season, your first full season with that position, because before you were the sports information director, or what is the term now that we use?
Media relations
assistant. There we go. I was like, wait, it's a different name now. But yes, so you've been with the program for a while. But going back to this past season, something new that was really cool, I thought, especially, I mean, something that AD Craig Angelis wanted to do as well, and that's where it came up, or it was able to happen, was these surveys that went out, like to gauge the actual fan experience from the fans. What a concept, that are not your typical trolls, as we were kind of talking about on social media. So what are some of the suggestions and maybe some of the common things that these people that answered the surveys had to say about their experience at any of the particular sports that maybe you can remember or stood out the most to you?
So every sport's different, obviously, because the venue. We'll start with football. Football was always the sound system. Well, that was the big one. Working on it, trying, have some ideas floating around. We'll see where it goes. Then the lines at concession stands, which we have a pretty good idea why that is the way it is. I have an idea. I'm trying to fix it. We can go down that rabbit hole if we really want to. Then those were two of them. And then there's one that we really can't control, and I want to address this as quickly as I can, is the comfort of the seating when it comes to our facility. Fully understandable on that one. And I want to address that because I'm like, I get you. It's going to get better. It will. I hope that doesn't deter fans from going and enjoying themselves is because of the seating and because it's bleacher seating. I understand kind of how Aloha was and looking forward to what the future holds when it comes to a new Aloha Stadium. But for what we have right now, when you go to Clarence TC Ching Complex, you are so close to the action and you're right there. Like, this is your home facility, and that place can get loud. We saw it last year with the Air Force game. We saw it last year in the Colorado State game. I understand like you want to kind of be comfortable while you're there. I would agree with you. I want to do the exact same thing. I went to a minor league baseball game and a WNBA game when I was in Vegas 2 weeks ago. Comfort's a huge thing. At the same time, I don't want fans to sit. I want you standing. I want you on your feet. I want you going nuts. And I say this, and I'm probably going to make some people mad when I say this. I want our football games as close to a riot as we can get.
Yeah.
I want that place going nuts. And if people are sitting, I'm like, well, you're not going nuts. And I say that tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's one of those things we're trying to address. We're looking at possibly in some areas maybe putting in luxury seating like we already have in the EV end zone. We already have above the tunnels. We may end up doing that, more of it. I don't know yet. It's kind of been discussed here and there. When it comes to the sound system, it's one of those things where how much are we willing to invest when we know we may not be there in 4 years? So you have to ask that question. We've had the conversation about possibly renting equipment to do that throughout the year, 7 times a year. So that's been brought up because I can see that being a pain in the back, is where we have that one big speaker and it's not reaching the other end of the field, and then the ones that are close to it, their ears are getting blasted. So I get that. That's something that I think we can work on and maybe figure out a different avenue to spread that out a little bit. And then when it comes to long lines, well, it comes down to one big thing in terms of the beer lines is we want to sell cans. We're told we can't.
Oh, gotcha.
And so we're trying to figure out how can we figure that process out, because it becomes a safety issue. But it has become more common to sell the cans these days, which does help. And you start having those conversations. You're going, hey, let's try this. Let's see how this goes. So those are type of conversations that we're having to try and listen to the surveys and figure out what fans like and what they don't like. What I found out that they do like, which is good, is that the process of getting in and out of the parking structure and parking situation in general at UH for all of our events has actually got a pretty high rating in our surveys. Because I think people go into it expecting this is going to suck. I'm going to be stuck in traffic. This is going to hurt. I'm going to hate this. And they go, hey, this wasn't that bad. So good. Yeah. But I mean, that's one of the things that we're kind of like, okay, that's working. That's a positive sign. I
do think you guys do a good job too, and we try to do it as much as we can on our shows, and I'm sure all the other media and through our outlets, is getting the alerts and the posts when it is a weekend that you guys are anticipating, like, hey, all of these sports are going on, make sure so that's very helpful too, so we can tell everyone, hey, just a heads up, it's one of these weekends. park elsewhere. The upper campus is going to be open. So I think that helps with alleviating some of the stresses if people, like you said, they're already anticipating certain situations to happen. So they're like, all right, well, we kind of expected this or expected it to suck, and it's better.
Shout out to Derek and Troy, fellow directors that I work with. They're really good at the messaging stuff. And they're the ones putting that stuff on social media, doing email blasts. Like, I agree with you. We've made a really conscious effort to do that. And I'm glad that that's working. And again, it's one of our highest rated things is parking, getting in and out is good. Like, fantastic. Good to know.
I don't know how many people or programs or franchises can say that parking is like a positive for them. Like every sports experience that I've ever had was a nightmare leaving the stadium, whether it was professional football, professional baseball, professional basketball. It doesn't matter. If I can walk to the stadium, I normally do, simply because of how bad parking and getting out is. So that's like a very underrated thing for people to, not for people to appreciate, but an underrated thing to have go really, really well, especially in year one of implementing, ideas and whatnot, because that's something that I'm sure even now is like, all right, we at least have the baseline. Is there ways we can continue to tweak this and get better? And that, I'm sure, is kind of your mindset all throughout, not just parking, but all throughout what your job is.
Oh, 100%.
And I mean, getting in and out of Aloha Stadium back in the day wasn't exactly the best when the games were packed. But I know we started with the surveys and we're looking back on the past, but since we're here talking about parking, talking about football, I need to ask the question looking ahead, because I know it's a hot topic for all of the fans. I need to ask the question, are we any closer to the possibility of tailgating on football home game days?
I got to be careful about how I answer this because it's not the same as it was last year or the year before, which is positive. It's a good thing.
Continues the process of change is good.
Yes. So let me clear up a couple things real quick, and then I'll kind of explain our current situation. A lot of people blame David Matlin. That is completely false. Completely, utterly false. The issue has been safety on campus. And then when you throw in the safety concerns, if we were to do something, where does it sit at in terms of cost? Because you have to hire outside security or you have to bring in HPD. So you look at these different things. So a lot of people that kind of point the finger going, Matlin won't let us do this, is completely, utterly wrong. And then you look at the current situation. Craig, I don't know if this got brought up when you guys had him in on a couple days ago. Craig's a champion for it. He is right there with it, and he wants to see if we can make this happen. David was the same way, but David was also one of those going, we got other things we got to worry about right now, which was correct at the time. So you look at the current situation. Right now, in terms of athletics, I am the person at the forefront. I'm right in the middle of these conversations. And I have been in meetings for the last 4 months, every week, every Wednesday, talking about how we're going to make this happen. How can we make it happen? And when I say I'm losing sleep, I'm losing sleep. Because this is something that I desperately want. Brother, I'm from the South.
You get it.
Yeah, I mean, I was born and raised in an SEC parking lot. So, like, I'm pretty confident that where I was born was a hospital that actually the parking lot's used for tailgating on Saturdays.
I was going to say probably literally born on the SEC
I think I was.
Oh, God.
But this is something that's very near and dear to me, and I understand it. And so every week I go in ready to fight. Let's have this conversation. And we've made some progress. I can't go into details, but I do feel like we're getting there. And it's being supported by the university. It's being supported by people that are higher up and can make decisions. They're like, okay, if we want to do this, let's make sure we do it right. And again, and I put this out there, and Paul, you referenced this earlier, starting points. When we do this, if we do this, I feel confident we will be, is when this does happen, you have to understand for a fan, there has to be a starting point. Is it going to be perfect at the very beginning? We're going to do everything we can to make it as close to that as possible. But have realistic expectations when it comes to either where it be location or cost or rules or whatnot. Be aware that this is a starting point and that we want to add to it because this is such a vital part of college football.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that I believe is going to help our program. So I'm being somewhat vague, and I have to be.
Understandable.
But no, the conversations are happening. The progress to find an endpoint to get this started is happening. Will it happen this year? I hope so. I really do. But I can't say yes or no because I don't know. But I can say that we're making progress. And I feel like if it's going to happen, we're as close to it happening right now than we have been the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, there you have it, fans. We're close. No guarantee that it's going to happen, but the conversations are happening for you guys. So they're working on it. You know, there's not happening just because they just completely, as Eric said, you care about this stuff.
Yeah.
And you know the fans care about this stuff. Important to college football, the fan experience and everything, which is part of your job title, the fan experience for football. But so there you go, guys. We just got to be patient. And if it does happen, make sure everyone behaves and don't ruin it for everybody else. So that way, all the positive efforts that Eric and all the proponents of this are standing behind, don't let anybody ruin it. And then whoever is, opposed of it will be like, see, that's why we haven't been doing this. It was because of blah, 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 blah. All this stuff happened. So be good, people.
I'll give a lot of credit. There are a lot of people that's working with us when athletics and upper campus and administration, everyone is working to find an answer to make this happen. And it may seem like, oh, it's an easy answer. Just do it. It's like,
yeah.
I wish it was.
Let's just print more money too.
Yeah, I wish it was. But I'm excited that we're having these conversations we've been having for 4 months, and that so many people that I'm working with are trying. And that makes me feel positive because we're working together. And it's not just an athletic thing. It's not just a one-person thing. It is a full effort from the university to work together as a team to try and figure out how this can be done.
Right, there you have it, folks. But we do need to step aside and take a break as we are joined by the University of Hawaii Director of Marketing and Fan Experience, Eric Mathews. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake up in the den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to all of you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den. I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani alongside Paul Brecht, and we are joined in studio for the entire show by University of Hawaii Director of Marketing and Fan Experience, Eric Mathews. Now, if you guys are just tuning in, you missed as most of an insightful conversation as we could have had about the hot topic that is tailgating before University of Hawaii football games. So if you missed it, you can listen later on demand at hawaiisportsradio.com, or you can check our video on YouTube later today with Eric. So if you missed any of that, then you can go back and listen. But want to move on. Want to actually get this text. It's not a question, but one of our positive texters, he is from the Bay Area, actually, because he had a question for our AD, Craig Angelis, about expanding the brand to other places. But because he's a UH alum, but he texted in and he said, excuse me, doesn't say he. I shouldn't say that.
They.
Only because I don't know if they're whoever.
Good catch.
So yeah. So it says, Eric, you have been doing great work. what is coming next for Hawaii. We need to hire you for our company. I don't know what company they work for, but apparently we got to hire you for our company.
Well, I can go ahead and tell you right now, I don't plan on leaving Hawaii anytime soon. So thank you for the that comment and that proposal, I guess. In terms of next year, there are a lot of things that we're looking at, and the football promotion schedule is pretty much done.
Ooh.
So, and I don't want to unveil that just yet because we're trying to add a few more things into it before we put that out there, because that is something we're going to strive to do differently this year compared to what has been done the years past. Is usually whenever there is a promotion, it's usually announced the week of. We're trying to announce that as the season begins for every game, and try to do that so that you and your family can plan around certain games and make sure that you're there, and you don't go on vacation for Taylor Swift nights and and do different things. So we're really trying to get ahead of that. We're ahead of the game right now on football, and then volleyball we're wrapping up here soon to let you know here's what we have planned. This is what we're going to do. We're really trying to get the messaging out there about that. Two things I can kind of throw out there for you right now, and this is not groundbreaking. One could be. The first one is season tickets for football go on sale for new season ticket holders on Monday, July 1st. The Keiki season ticket package is offered again, where you can, for an adult, you can claim 2 free kids tickets in the end zone for free. So you can get a season ticket for you as an adult and 2 kids free. So that's going to be offered on Monday. Keiki season ticket package. That's out there. We had that last year. We're bringing it back again this year because we want more. We want more kids. We want the young people. We really want to board green, live green, die green.
Mm-hmm.
Like we want that, and so we're starting to do more stuff that's aimed towards kids, and that's just part of it. The other one, this was kind of put out there the other day by Rob DeMello, but he didn't make a big deal out of it. But he mentioned it in passing. I want to make sure that they put up here. We are going for the women's basketball single game attendance record this year. Last year, we wanted to break Beeman's record, which we did. This year, we're going for the all-time women's basketball single game record with Beeman's Bigger Bash on Saturday, January 25th. So go ahead, mark that down. Do not take vacation.
I need to be there.
Yes.
In my sparkly
You need to be there for that
blazer.
one. But we are going for the record again. And we put out earlier this week about the fan
I was going to
edition.
say that date sounds pretty familiar,
Yeah,
my
wait a
friend.
minute.
Well, there you go. You've connected some of the dots, my friend. Is the jerseys that are being designed by fans that's going into this competition we're doing right now, which the turnout has been fantastic.
Really?
Several countries have put in
Nice.
designs.
Hell yeah, let's go.
And so I can actually show you a couple if you'd like to see. We
Yes.
can't put it out there publicly, but I can show you during the break and kind of some of the things we've got so far. But we've had a really good turnout for that, and I'm excited about that. If you don't know about that yet, HawaiiAthletics.com. It is our Aloha Spirit Collection Fan Edition. You design a jersey for women's basketball to wear, a uniform, jersey and shorts, and then we'll pick 10 finalists. Month of August, we'll put the 10 finalists out there publicly. Kind of look at that. We have a panel of judges right now. For sure, Coach Beeman and Lily Wahine Kapu are 2 of the judges. We're going to have a few more and kind of build from there. But the jersey or the uniform that ends up winning will be worn for Beeman's Bigger Bash on January 25th.
I love it. And actually, I'm glad you bring that up because we were talking about this on Tuesday's show about the contest, but I also thought about, like say if a fan doesn't know how to particularly use like a nice computer design system, how do you guys work with that in terms of getting ideas, and are those encouraged? If it's, because I know it can be difficult. Like, okay, for example, I have a very creative cousin that's more of an artist, like pen to paper type, not necessarily graphic designer, but I feel like she could come up with a good concept. But how would you suggest if someone's like that, where they don't have like the design computer capabilities? And I know you guys offer or say to put in explanations and whatnot, but I'm just kind of curious, like, are you looking for like the professional, like, outline of the jersey and then like all the graphics computerized, or
do you need a
something like
digital
that?
copy, or can somebody draw out their concept and then attach like a picture along with their attachment?
So the rules state we want digital. But there's a very significant but here. If you are, like you put out there, kind of not the computer type and, don't really have the design stuff, because we actually had a 10-year-old kid the other day put in stuff.
That's cool.
So, we're getting that type of stuff. But I'm one of those where I understand where you're coming from. And if you put in, hold on. I actually just got, apparently someone's listening. That's good morning, Casey. We had somebody drawing crayons. So I'll put this out there. And Casey's probably going to be mad at me when I say this. And so Casey, I'm sorry. If your design is really detailed and spectacular, and it's hand-drawn, and you give explanations, and you show different sides to make sure that we see everything, and it has that detail with it, I can go to everybody and go, hey, look, this is something we really need to look at here, because this design is ridiculously good. You can't just say, like, hey, we're going to turn down good ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So again,
Eric's Apple Watch is going off right now.
We love you, Casey.
So, but if we get those type of entries, he keeps texting me. This makes it even funnier. I did this before to Derek, which is even funnier about that. But if you're able to provide that, the explanation, the details, stuff like that, then it's worth fighting for.
Okay.
Then go ahead, give it a shot. Will it be the deciding factor? I hope not. But it's one of those things where we will do our best to see if it's one of those that we just can't turn it away. Then it's right there.
So as long as they're passionate about it.
Yeah. Now we prefer the digital.
Yeah,
we
of
want
course.
that. But if it's just one of those things where you're like, I'm not very good at this, but I'm going to draw this, give it a shot. Let's see what happens.
There we go.
I mean, continues the what is it, trend of this show where we're talking about just continuing
try it.
to
Just
try.
try it.
Just
Yeah.
try. And eventually something's going to work.
Yeah. And maybe you're a good drawer and a good writer, so you can explain better.
Yes.
And that'll help maybe do your pitch to Eric, and he'll be like, we need to look at this one.
No, I mean, like I said, I said this the other day on, I think it was either Rob DeMello or Kyle Shenin that came and talked to me. This is one of those things of how can you be any closer to a team than coaching, but designing their uniform.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, that's why I'm sitting here saying I'll fight for it. If it's really good, it has to be really good, but I will do that. If it's one of those things that really sticks out, like we can't turn away this good idea.
I mean, to be fair, in general, it's not like if people turn in a not so inspired digital copy, it's not like they're going to be pushed ahead because they did digital either. Like that's something in general. Like I feel like those stipulations kind of go for everybody in general, like regardless of hand drawn or digital. It just might especially go for hand drawn as well. In general, it is awesome. A really, really cool concept, and it's something that I know kind of you said that multiple different countries have submitted. That's cool, man, because I know I have multiple friends who are working on designs for it. I know that like you mentioned, Koo, there's plenty of people's family members who I'm sure don't even know that they want to enter yet that are still going to enter. So there is plenty of time to still enter your concept in, your ideas in, but don't dilly-dally too long. Get those in and submitted so that Eric can start fighting for you sooner and sooner and sooner.
Yeah, and as we kind of started off the show with, it's all about doing new things, and this is actually the first time it's being done on the collegiate level, so that's exciting for the University of Hawaii as well. All right, got to take our last break of the show, but you want to stick around to the end as we are joined by University of Hawaii Director of Marketing and Fan Experience, Eric Mathews, and you guys still have time to text in any more additional questions, 808-888-KGU1, that's 808-888-5481. We'll be right back on Wake Up in the Den.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Kule Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Eric Mathews, the University of Hawaii Director of Marketing and Fan Experience. All right, we've got about 10 more minutes left in the show.
Only 10?
I know. It went by so fast, and you are more than awake right now. As you
Yes,
we
very
were
much
fired
so.
up so much. Have so much stuff that has been answered. I feel like we should have done a 2-hour show today, although you are on vacation, so maybe not. But we'll keep everybody updated with new things that are coming
Who
out. But
knows?
first, Mr. Paul Brecht had a question.
Oh God, what? Oh, that's right. I asked if during the break if we had held Eric's feet to the fire, and by that I meant year one on the job. There were over 160 different events that of varying sizes. We'll call them. I was curious in year one what your favorite event, your favorite promotion, whatever it was. What was your favorite from year one?
Even though you asked that question during the break, I was still kind of had to think about it because it is something that is a good question because there's a few things I really enjoyed that we did. I'll start small. There were in-game activation promotions that we did that I really enjoyed doing. I love Mystery Box. The fact that idea came out of an episode of The Simpsons to me just still funny as can be. I was a big fan of that one. One of the guys in our office, Brent, came up with the idea about having the wiener dog races at volleyball. That was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty cool. He did a great job with that. I really liked what we did with water polo. That was fun. I don't know if you guys got to go to too many water polo matches this year, but almost every match was packed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
and
it
that
was.
was cool to see. And Kayleen did a great job with that. I was really proud of what we did there. Baseball was so different this year. And Jared did a fantastic job with that. And I love the wrestling theme night that he did. That was pretty cool. The stuff that he added in were, with the kids in the field, the Star Wars nights, and those were really fun. Those were really cool to kind of see. I really like what we did last year, military night at football with the F-22 flyovers.
That was a really cool
That
night.
was cool.
Yeah, that took a lot of planning, and
I can imagine.
yeah, and I was really involved in that, and I was really happy how that went. But the number one is, I think, head and shoulders, Beeman's Big Bash. Was that idea, that idea came up, and I presented that idea during my job interview that I wanted to do that. And to go from
That's what got him the job.
to go from that hiring committee and presenting that idea to actually putting it in place and then to actually follow through on it. And there's a friend of mine that lives here, and ironically, her and I actually grew up together in Kentucky. And she ended up coming here, and she was here before I got here.
Moved all the way to Hawaii to see each other again.
But her and her husband are huge UH fans, and they saw me after Beeman's Big Bash, and I'm not an emotional guy. I was damn near tears that game because of what we were able to accomplish and the planning that went into that. And when Megan and Ernie came down to say hi, it almost hit me. And I was like, Megan, I got to walk away. I'm ready to start crying here in a second. And that does not happen for me. And so that night was huge because I love Coach Beeman.
Mm-hmm.
There are two coaches. There are two coaches in my career that I value my relationship with them, and Coach Beeman is one of those two. And to have that night, to break her record, to do all the planning, all the execution, the players and them, because the players came up to me afterwards and they blamed me for their slow start because they were so hyped because the crowd was so big. They weren't used to it. And I am taking full credit for having Bonnie, the head coach of UC Santa Barbara women's basketball. I'm taking full credit for her retiring. Because that night, she said to the media, our players were not ready for that. And I was like, cool.
Bang,
and
let's
then
go.
2 weeks later, she retires. I'm like, I'm taking full credit for that.
As you should.
Yes. So, but that night was a big night because, and I say this with love. is whenever you have an idea, whenever you try something different, you always kind of get, oh, well, it was senior night. Oh, it was this. Like they kind of like, I think it's natural. This kind of happens. Oh, it happened because of this, not because of the idea. And that's not harping on anybody. I think that's just kind of human nature sometimes. The way we did women's basketball is there was always this kind of this cloud of going, well, what can you really do? It's, they get maybe, 1,200 fans on average. Like, like how are you going to be? And like, they're going to have a good crowd on senior night. We deliberately made this a random Saturday before senior night. For one, if this works, it's going to benefit all the other crowds after that.
Mm-hmm.
And two, I want to stand alone going, I told you this was going to work. And it did. So you had all this stuff on that night. That's why I was like, that was huge. Like what we're doing is working. What we're trying to accomplish is catching on. And we're providing a different atmosphere, and that night was a huge one. So, Paul, to answer your question, it's probably Beeman's Big Bash.
I was wondering if that would be what it would be, because it's funny you mentioned being on the verge of being emotional, I guess, or just being emotional that night, because I remember distinctly thinking that myself of like, man, like this is incredible. Like this is an incredible night, because kind of like you mentioned, it was a random Saturday. It's not like it was senior night. It's not like we had a lot of local girls on the other team coming back who, that typically brings out a big crowd. It was very much so coming out to support the team, to support an idea. Like the culmination of it all together, I can imagine, was overwhelming to feel, because I felt overwhelmed just taking it in of like, wow, this is an awesome experience. We're big proponents of women's basketball here in the studio in general. So to see that actually come to fruition was, I mean, beyond words in some ways. So I'm not shocked, especially because we're getting year 2, Beeman's Bigger Bash.
Bigger Bash. That's
Yes.
the fun thing that's
So that
coming
it
up.
clearly went well enough.
It was a big night. It was definitely one of those nights where for our department, it was like, that's a turning point. And so that was a huge night for us.
All right, Eric, we have just over 2 minutes left in the show.
Okay.
So I honestly just want to give the rest of the 2 minutes to you, my friend, because I know whatever last things you want to say to the fans, for now, we'll have you back for sure as we get closer to the season, hopefully to provide more details if all things go accordingly and we get tailgating back. But until then, before you go on vacation, 2 minutes, the floor is yours.
I'm going to look directly at the camera for this one. So we're
Perfect.
using this for social
Perfect.
media.
Yes.
This is your bearded buddy talking to you.
This is you. This is me.
This is you. This is me. Take pride in Hawaii in every facet. Every game, every event, take pride. Don't go just to sit. Go to cheer. Go to have fun. Let yourself have as much fun with your friends and your family as you possibly can. You are the difference maker. When you go to a game, you are a difference maker. You look at what they do in Europe. They look at what they do in other sports and other places. It is fans taking on the responsibility of, this is our home. This is our team. We're going to go nuts for them regardless of the situation. We need you. We need more of that. When you provide that, Hawaii lives up to its expectations, and it lives up to what other fans associate with us. You are the difference maker in this. And when you are there and you are losing your mind, it makes the difference between a win and a loss. Not a promotion, not an idea for a giveaway, but you enjoying yourself, you going nuts and representing Hawaii in every possible way, that this is your team, this is your state. We need you. We need every fan to have that feeling that this is yours. Let's make the most out of it.
Whoa, that was, how did you time that perfectly in your head too? Giving us just about 10 seconds to wrap things up. So thank you, my friend, for
I'm a
joining
professional.
us. For Paul Brecht, I'm Kugule Agbayani. Mahalo for listening. Bye.
Thank you.